such a weird time of year. I just shot my last wedding 2 weekends ago. It's a time where I don't really have an identity as a photographer slash person, moving around every weekend, going to these weddings and capturing all the things and seeing all the people, and then not doing that is an interesting pivot. I am unpacking them and thought this was the perfect opportunity to do a video of what was in my bag for a typical wedding day in 2024. I'm going to do this video in two parts. First part is going to be just actually what's in the bags, what the gear is, and then if you're interested in a part two of this same video, I'm going to do exactly what gear I use with lenses for which parts of the wedding day, because somebody asked about that. Sorry if I'm a little melancholy and bittersweet. That's my business. This business is about what was in my bag this year. Two bags of wonder and mystery. These are both Ona bags. This is the Ona messenger backpack. I think it's the Brixton messenger bag. Like, I've had this forever. It looks it. I don't know. I love the look of it. I still haven't really found a bag that does a better style for what I'm looking for. So this is what I've continued to use. The Ona Monterey backpack. I've really put some wear and tear on this bag. I like it. The size is quite nice. These are my two bags. Ona bag number one. This bag is always with me. Use it as like my VIP bag. I'm carrying all the most important favorite gear in here, as well as SD cards, batteries, film, you'll see. But this is the bag that's always on my back, sometimes breaking my back because it is very heavy. Let's jump in. The Leica M11. I obviously talk about this lens a lot. It's my main camera. This is a 50mm Summilux, the vintage black chrome version. This is the main setup of this camera. I don't deviate too much, honestly. On a wedding day, this is what I have. The strap is not significant and needs to be replaced, but this is what I have, the M11. Other camera body I keep in this bag is the Canon R6 Mark II. Usually keep the 2870 f2 just on this body because it's very heavy. I'd rather have the heaviness on this backpack instead of in my carry-on. This is my second camera body that I use and carry with me. And then third body that I keep in my main bag is the Leica MP. This is a vintage Summicron 35mm lens that I added to my bag this year. It's kind of solved all my problems. It's small, compact, and the 35mm range is really fun for my 35mm camera. How do you like that? I don't really change this lens out. Definitely in the last 6 months since I bought it, it tends to stay on this camera. I shoot film for almost all of my weddings now in some capacity, even if it's just a couple rolls. So this camera is traveling with me all the time and in my VIP bag. That is sort of what I keep in the main compartment there. So sad unpacking it. Side compartments of this bag are pretty dumb. There's no zipper that keeps it closed and safe, so I don't keep too much of importance in here. I have sunglasses, I have hair ties and a mint. I usually keep my wallet in one side, and I have receipts, lip chap, and lipstick. Great. All right, top pouch. Oh, I've been trying out the Pentax 17, so I was using it the last month or so. This camera wouldn't normally be in my bag, but I tend to like throw in a wild card shooting, especially lots of film. So this camera has been in my bag the last month and it's great because it's super small. But this is a film camera, and I will talk more about that in other videos. I keep the, it's so heavy. The 85, this is an R lens, obviously, for the Canon body. I have used this and brought it to every wedding. It's replaced sometimes I've used the 135mm lens in the past, and the 7200, which is always a favorite. This is just my replacement. This is as close as I get on a wedding day. Like having this lens so much. It's probably one of my favorite Canon lenses that I own, and it's very heavy. Hidden side pouch-aroo in here, and I keep like gum if I get nervous. And then what else do I have? I mean, the most randomest of things. Sorry, probably not the prettiest of things, but I keep some notes that people have written to me, some business cards, and then some, you know, I don't know, odds and ends, floss and lens wipes, you know. I think I'll just keep them in here for a little longer. This is it. That's all that was in the bag pretty much. But this little pouch, it's of no significance. I don't even like the color yellow, but it works perfectly as a little cube cubby bag for the things that I need. I keep a number of just little knickknacks, goodies in here. Got to bag 2. How exciting. I have the Sigma 24mm lens for my Canon body. I have a Profoto flash. I have the Leica SF40 flash. If I'm doing a lot of film, I'll usually keep this on the MP, but I've been known to put it on the M11, and I've also been known to not put it on anything at all. A case that I didn't put this in. I just have random other tchotchkes in here. I keep some business cards in the middle. I've had this little compact since probably the first wedding I ever shot. I used to keep it in case like a bride needed to like check her makeup. I don't know, I just thought it was nice to have. But then I started doing like cool reflection tricks with it too on the mirror. So I keep this as like a nostalgic memento in my bag. Random things. Oh, see, another battery. When I'm done with batteries, I kind of have a system, like I'll put it in a random pocket and not in the main pocket. So I'll put that one back in there. Like letters. Oh, I found a cute toothpick that I thought was worth keeping. In the side pockets, I keep more lipstick, sunscreen. I have a random pen, and then some more batteries. This is I just did a review on the Leica M11 battery. This is the pack that I keep in this bag. And then I have, it's another spare Profoto. I told you it was in here. And then full prism in case, sometimes I'll bring it out just to play and go there. But yeah, random receipts, bracelets, books. That's pretty much it. I don't know if that's a normal amount. I don't really keep tabs on how other people do it. I don't know if this is like a lot or not a lot. Did 42 mainly weddings, a couple elopement city hall weddings this year. It's a really sizable amount of full wedding days. With this gear, I find that I'm definitely a quality over quantity person. And when I'm traveling each weekend, it's really important to me to have a great collection that serves the work well and the art well for what I was doing, that gave me enough variety for any situation I was in, and just allowed me to be the best photographer I could be for my couples. It's interesting how we choose gear over the years, what we're influenced by, who we watch and follow, and who inspires us to get certain pieces. I've just been really happy with the gear as a whole and how I've been using it. Because I'm traveling so much and putting so much time and energy to each wedding day that I'm doing, it's really important to me to be mindful and thoughtful about each piece of gear that I bring to the day with me. I want to make sure that if it's gonna take the journey, it's gonna pull its weight in the bag. Some pull their weight more than others. Each of these pieces of my bag are pivotal in some part of my storytelling. I've just been really happy with the bag this year. It's a really nice feeling to just go into the bag, and I know for any scenario that's thrown at me, I have something that is going to work well to help me capture it. This is the lowdown of where, when, each part of the wedding day, what gear I'm utilizing for those parts of the day, give you some insight of how to like map out your day if you're starting weddings or, you know, wanting a different system of gear or just comparing your own system of how you do things. This was my 9th season of shooting weddings, so there's some trial and error. There's a lot of just experience that goes into making these decisions. As far as like, this was really frustrating because I wanted to get closer to this moment, or I was super close to this moment, but then I wasn't wide enough in time for another moment. I wasn't ready or prepared for a moment because I didn't have the right gear. There's all these decisions that happen very naturally and organically if you get to shoot weddings and get to do a couple of them. You learn very quickly, or at least I did, what makes sense for me, the work that I'm doing for my couples. I feel like I've figured out some things, and so I'm very happy to share with you what I use, and also, I'm not gonna do that, how I use it. First and foremost, I should start with this is my main camera. I have other peers that have like 2 of the same body and use a variety of different lenses. It's a little unique to use 2 different camera systems. I know how in my back end on the editing to just work through color profiles for each camera to make sure that everything's seamless in the end. I understand that it definitely makes my work a little bit harder using 2 different camera systems. However, for me, it's super worth it. This is a manually focused rangefinder camera. So I'm literally, if you're not familiar with the M system, go check out a few other the videos if you are interested. If you don't care, that's fine. But this is a rangefinder camera. So every single image I'm having to manually focus in at all parts of the day. I'm used to it by now. I've been using this a long time. I keep the 50mm. This is a Summilux 1.4. I shoot this lens almost always wide open at 1.4. It does not change. What I'm really changing throughout the day is my ISO and my shutter speed. I would say that my ISO really lives on the lower side. For the most part, this camera, I'm keeping the ISO at about 160 is a sweet spot, up to 200, 250, 320. That's kind of where I live in my ISO world on this camera. Shutter, depending on if I'm indoors and outdoors, obviously, I'm really moving the shutter all day long. I do the shutter on this camera as low as like 1/30th of a second. I can get a usable shot doing that only because I have years of practice. It's not it at all. 1/30th is about as low as I'll go. If I really want a sharp, clean image, I don't go below 1/90th of a second typically. I talk in depth in other videos about how I use this for weddings. It's kind of a whole thing. You can go check that out if you want, but I usually use this lens on it. The film version and companion to that is the MP that I'm using on my wedding days. Most of my wedding packages, an 8-hour day, comes with some component of film, whether it's just a couple of rolls, maybe it's a lot of rolls. I have this camera with me as the film companion. It is also a rangefinder camera. It's also manually focused. This lens is a 35mm Summicron f2. It is vintage and I think version 1. Most people would put this on a shelf. I choose to use it for weddings. This one's a little trickier to focus. I've had to kind of work through some things this year as far as like comfortability and getting some quick focusing on it. Using it on my film camera, it kind of makes sense because film, I'm kind of going at a slower pace anyway in some regard. So I'm never slowed down by this really, really cool special lens. My ISO when I'm doing film, I keep the box speed. So portrait 800, it would be 800 on the back. I'm changing the shutter speed throughout the day, again, based on if it's what setting I'm in, light, dark, all the way in between. And I'm keeping this at f2. If I am doing direct flash, I might bump it up, but I usually just use my film camera, keeping it at f2. Third body, the Canon R6 Mark II. This is such a beast of a lens that's on here, but this camera, I don't have the most like wonderful things to say about it. I will say it's a wonderful, consistent workhorse camera. Keep the settings on manual here. I'm really not touching too many things. Whatever lens I'm using, I'll change the f-stop on it, the ISO. Don't really do a lot on this camera. The settings are as they are, and I don't really change much about it. These are the exact settings of it. Here are a few other settings. Doing auto white balance, a multi-field, it detects the subject. I'm not putting like a retro filter on. I do evaluative metering. I do low speed continuous. I know what it does. It does it well. That's all I need to know. This lens is the 2870 f2. It is a beast of a lens. Even as I'm just holding this is like a lot. It gives me the most polished, consistent looking images. It is fantastic for family photos. Any shot where there's more than 4 people, everybody's gonna be in a nice, really clear focus. It's gonna be lovely and sharp and wonderful. I use this lens for sometimes first look because I can get that nice range on it. Almost always I have it on for the ceremony, the beginning of the ceremony of everybody walking down the aisle. It picks up on people really fast, and I love getting reactions and the giveaway at the altar. This lens gets me wide enough and tight enough. I will sometimes use this lens for reception if it's like the entrance or dances, parent dances. It's rare that I have this lens on past speeches time. And it's also rare that I have this lens on for portrait time. This lens definitely has a purpose, and I'm happy that I have it, but I wish that I had an alternative, and I wish it had ears that I could cover, because I'm very much looking for an alternative because this lens is so heavy. It's not healthy to use, in my opinion, to use a lens for that amount of time. It's not good for me personally, my joints. I don't want to be sore after a wedding day. So I really limit how much I use this lens, even though it is a great lens. Speaking of heavy lenses, I also have the Canon 85 R lens 1.2. I'm using this lens for maybe some getting ready. If I have like extra getting ready time, I'll bring this out and just to do some pretty details of things, maybe a pretty portrait shot by some window light, perhaps a cool detail shot if I have time on this lens for getting ready. During the ceremony, for vows to each other or moments where I need to be a little bit more up close. In the past, I've had the 135 Sigma lens, which I loved, and then I've had the 7200, which is a staple in most wedding photographer bags. I choose to use the 85. It's a little more condensed, compact. It also gets the job done. So ceremony moments, and then also speeches. This is a great lens. I'll put this on, have some flash with it. It's actually at f1.2, I can be in pretty low light and get a usable image. However, flash just makes sense most of the time for reception. Love this lens. It's probably the lens I utilize the least on a wedding day, but it's still worth it. And every time I use this lens, I wish that I did use it a little bit more because it's lovely. And then the Sigma 24mm art lens. This has the adapter on it. It's not a Canon lens, so it has my little adapter friend. Well, that's embarrassing. I shoot this lens almost wide open all the time at 1.4. That's what it's made for. Why would I deviate? Use this lens for getting ready. It really comes in handy if the space is super dark, really cramped, or there's a lot of people involved. A lot of my couples portraits, especially one when I want a really grand, big, wide perspective. I love this lens for that. I just feel like it's the super combo, a 50mm with a 24mm. I feel like a lot of people I watched when I was a young photographer used those two setups, and I found them to be helpful for me too. A really cool perspective helps me with a lot of different parts of the day, especially things that I'm missing. Maybe I feel too close. I need something a little wider to help with the storytelling. I will use this lens for the ceremony. If I have time, I'll do like a wider perspective shot. Maybe I'll go from like much further away from the ceremony space or to the side just to get an interesting perspective. A cocktail hour perspective as well. Maybe depending on reception space, maybe like entrances into the reception area. This is my favorite dance floor lens. It's just light enough. I really like this lens. Let's just cap this off, talking a little bit about flashes. I am pretty minimal on how I use flash. Pretty much when the sun goes down, that's when the flashes come out. For the Canon, I use the Pro Photo. This is the A10. One of the things that I loved the most about this flash is that you don't have the AA batteries. It just has a single nice and clean battery pack. It goes right onto the hot shoe of the camera. Obviously, flash bounced from the ceiling, and then also some direct flash. I don't use any kind of off-camera flash. It's all on camera. It's really dependent on what the setting is, but maybe if I'm bouncing off the ceiling, it'll be like an 8.5 sitch. If I'm doing a direct flash sitch though, I want to be mindful of people and that I'm not blinding them. I'll usually do 4.5, depending on if the DJ light is bright. I'll go maybe like a 5.5. I'm big into the 5 numbers. And sometimes I'll go as low as 3.5. I just sort of play with it to see what works best for the situation that I'm in. Love, love, love this flash. And it's hard to believe that I could love a flash more than that, but this is my favorite flash of all time, ever. It's the Leica SF40. This does unfortunately have the AA batteries. I used this flash all year long, and I just had to change out the batteries last weekend. Using it a fair amount. I've used the heck out of this flash, and I barely had to change the batteries. It was amazing. Same thing as Pro Photo. I use this for bouncing on the ceiling, and then also, that was an original version of that song, and then also direct flash, which I use probably direct flash the most on, especially the film. I think it looks really cool for that. And then on the M11, sometimes I'll do flash. Tend to retire the M11 once the dance floor hits, because it's a little harder to do all the manual focus stuff. I love using this flash at receptions. It's so cute, so pretty, such a powerful tool. Overall, good. It's one downside. That is a clunker of a sound. I wish it were different, but that's the only complaint. That was a lot to chat about. I think it's fair to talk about just a couple alternatives that I throw in. Love using the 75mm Voigtlander on my Leica M. I use this sometimes if I'm doing like a lot of film. I'll switch this out just to give it a different perspective on the MP. Again, wide open. So I'll bring this one out from time to time. Talk about convenience. This year I did bring out the Leica Mini Lux Zoom. Had a fun go about with that. It is a point and shoot 90s camera. That is the most fun. So I brought this out a little bit for film work. This is a real special lens that maybe I'm just doing so that I remind myself to use this lens a lot more next year. I love my tilt shift lens. It's a 45mm Canon tilt shift. It is not an R lens. It's a very special lens, so I have to use the adapter when I bring it out for weddings. I love this lens for creative wedding party photos, creative couples photos. It does a really cool lens flare on this one. There's no coating on this version of this lens, so it's really special. I definitely don't get it out enough. It's just heavy enough where sometimes it's a little challenging for me to justify bringing it just for a handful of shots during a wedding day. I am going to really encourage myself to use this more. This is a sometimes lens. I really didn't use it that much. This gear serves me very well. I think looking ahead into next year of shooting weddings, I'm looking about having the same caliber of year as far as number of weddings, which is crazy, and I'm so grateful. Already looking at adding a different Leica M lens and maybe adding some sort of medium format film camera. We'll see. I'm excited to have my off season and kind of recalibrate, rethink about what I want to do in next season. But this is what has served me so well for 2024. And if you somehow watched all of this video, I should send you a cookie. Please let me know in comments if you need a cookie. Maybe I'll send it to you. I probably will. So that's the secret code. But I really appreciate you checking this out, seeing what I have been up to this as far as gear that I've been using for a wedding. I hope that you found it informative and helpful. On to 2024. It's good to like kind of clean it all out. Like I said, a little sad that I don't have the same routine every weekend now. My gear just gets to take a rest, and so do I. That's probably a good thing. So thank you so much. Bye.